To whoever reads this, if there is anyone left to read it, let it be known that I, Sir Pascalret Northale, bore witness to Dalamud's fall, the lesser moon's descent, the black doom which emerged from within, the flames which spread across the horizon, turning night to day. It shall haunt me for the rest of my days. The Seventh Umbral Calamity gave rise to tales and legends of heroism, struggle and strife, but most of all, fear. One such tale was born years after the calamity, telling the tale of the horrific fate of the men and women of Dusk Vigil, the Ishgardian fortress, meant to defend against the Dravanian horde in the Coerthas Highlands. It was like any other night in Ishgard. The weather was fair, and the Western Highlands before the Dusk Vigil were calm. Yet to the knights manning the walls, the air felt heavy with unease. Though Ishgard had officially severed ties with the rest of Eorzea, they knew things beyond their borders were escalating. They didn't even have to look up to see it. The lesser moon Dalamud had been descending for some time towards the region of Cartenow, where at that moment the forces of the Eorzean Alliance and Garlemald were engaged in combat. The Dusk Vigil stood as one of the last lines of defence of the Holy See and the highlands that feed it. The Vigil and its knights were under the command of Sir Helmric of House Durandare, a career knight who had just recently taken up the post as Dusk Vigil's Lord Commander. Most of the knights under his command were also sworn to his house. This was a night like any other. That was until the sky lit up from the horizon. The lesser moon exploded, sending massive shards across Eorzea, some making landfall in Coerthas, causing the ground to shake violently. The Knights of the Vigil were on alert due to the commotion and warnings of a sighting, but this was no dragon, but the Elder Primal Bahamut himself. All they could do was look on in horror as the Elder Primal flew high in the skies and faster than a shooting star, raining destruction across the land. Even the Dragoons of Dusk Vigil, experts at fighting such foes, were powerless before him. Mega flares rained down, striking the realm below, one of which also struck the Vigil directly, causing one of the outer wings to collapse, trapping many knights inside. It is the dawn of the 7th Umbral era, according to some of the men. I told them to put no stock in the ravings of any prophetess, but even I do not know what to believe anymore. As quickly as this terror had arrived, it again disappeared in a mighty flash of light over the mountains. It would have been easy to succumb to fear in that moment, but the situation within the Vigil demanded their attention. While the majority rushed to help the wounded, the rest stood ready upon the walls, for an attack that would never come. As they stood there, silence gripped the highlands before them. The night grew cold, much colder than usual for the season. Then they saw it, the first flecks of snow falling from above, the first of a snow that would never end. This gentle snowfall quickly turned into a blizzard as the winds picked up. The highlands before them quickly turned into a white sheet. Peering over the walls, the waters outside had quickly started to freeze, trapping fleeing caravans quickly within forming ice. Days passed. The engineers are still surveying the damage, but anyone with eyes can tell that the Dusk Vigil is beyond repair. Some walls can hardly be fit to call as such, piles of crumbling masonry as they are. Dusk Vigil was badly damaged, and the sudden change in weather only made things worse. The Vigil was not stocked for winter either, dependent on Falcon's Nest and the rest of the highlands for supply. As the knights took stock of their situation, they knew they could not defend the Vigil, yet alone Ishgard in this situation. What happened next is best told from Sir Pascaret in his surviving notes. The officers have been pleading with Sir Helmric, asking him to order a withdrawal. He knows our position is untenable, yet he refuses. We will hold it to the last, for we are the shields on the wall, the defenders of the Holy See, he says. He is a brave, pious man. Less so, we who serve under him. The men we rescued from the collapsed wing have not fared well. Given our dwindling supplies and the seemingly endless blizzard, we may be forced to make difficult decisions soon. This unseasonable weather grows worse with each passing day, and the toll it has taken on morale is plain. We have yet to receive reinforcements from the Holy See, and I fear none shall come. Nevertheless, Sir Helmrich remains steadfast in his decision, and will suffer no talk of withdrawal. Sir Helmrich's steward tells me he passes hours in the chapel, praying to the Fury for guidance. But I chanced to see him once, as he knelt before the statue. His eyes were transfixed upon the jewel in its helm, and he was whispering things I dare not write. Sir Helmrich has taken me into his confidence. He says I'm an honest man. I wish I were a braver one. The mutiny has been quelled. Among the starving, half-mad knights were Sir Helmrich's most trusted officers. He wielded the axe himself. Sir Helmrich received me in the chapel afterwards. I told him we will not last a fortnight without food. He smiled and told me that the Fury had blessed us with a bounty of fresh meat, then returned to his prayers. I joined him. O Helone, pray forgive your humble servant. For too long I have let fear rule my heart, and in my cowardice I have been party to unspeakable acts. I know now I shall never see my children again, nor would I want them to look upon their father's face, and what it has become. Sir Pascalret felt such shame and horror at his actions and those he had seen that he could not even write them down. But the message was clear. Cut off from Ishgard, an endless blizzard outside and their food having run out, the survivors by order of their commander turned to the only path left that offered even the slightest hope of survival. Cannibalism. They devoured the flesh of their fallen brothers and sisters, and in doing so became tainted by the act itself. But it was all for naught. The last of the knights succumbed to famine, sickness, and the unending cold. That should have been the end of it, but the dark acts they had undertaken had changed them. Even as the last vestiges of corporeal aether left their bodies, their souls did not pass on to the ethereal sea. Instead, they festered within their rotting corpses, and a dark magic took hold, reanimating them to walk the Dusk Vigil once more as Ashkin. They had become mindless, undead fiends. As the knights rose once again, so too did their commander. They roamed the shattered halls of Dusk Vigil, which had become their prison. They remained this way until years later, when a party of adventurers ventured within its walls on a mission from a desperate father to reclaim a jewel from the statue of Helone. These adventurers dispatched all the Ash King within, releasing their long tortured souls to finally find rest. A grim fate had befallen the Knights of Dusk Vigil, but a question remains, one the tavern tales cannot answer. Why had these knights turned into the undead to begin with? There I sat as the night of All Saints' Wake approached, pondering this question. In the years since venturing to Dusk Vigil, I had seen much of this world and beyond, thus many possibilities came to mind. But there was only one that made sense to me. Loath though I am to speak ill of the dead, I fear the fault lies with Sir Helmrich. The Dusk Vigil, indeed all of Ishgard, was favoured by Helone of the 12, whom we met just recently. Helone is a proud and fierce warrior, stern, honourable, and has a love for combat. The prayers of the Knights of Dusk Vigil would not have been lost on her in the wake of the calamity, in particular those of Sir Helmrich, who prayed often to her statue. Though she heard their prayers, she could not intervene, and was forced to look on in horror and disgust as they committed mortal sins in her name. She would have watched Sir Helmrich choose pride over the safety of his knights, who could have survived had they retreated to Ishgard. Then, she watched him put his knights to the axe for mutiny, even though the fault lay with him. But the final insult came after, when Sir Helmrich proclaimed in prayer that the Fury had blessed them with a bounty of fresh meat, and watched as they engaged in cannibalism, thanking and praying to the Fury as they did. It would have been within her power to deny these men and women to pass on to the ethereal sea, cursing them to walk the land in undeath as punishment for their deeds. Perhaps cannibalism itself is a taint upon the soul, and this taint fueled their transformations into the undead. As to why he refused to retreat, perhaps the history of Dusk Vigil can offer an explanation. Long ago, a lady knight named Finia led reinforcements to Dusk Vigil while it was under heavy dragon attack. She fought and defended the Vigil, her presence providing courage to the souls of its defenders. For this, Finia was raised up as a saint of Halone. With a legacy of conviction such as this, perhaps he did not wish to sully it. But that is the dark tale of the last defenders of the Dusk Vigil.